This is John. He'd been trading for over a year and had basically nothing to show for it. So I sat down with him, looked at what he was doing, and realized he was missing one key piece. And in the next 90 days, he made over $41,000. But making money created a new problem. He started getting overconfident, and then one bad decision almost ruined the entire thing. This is a story of how he fixed his strategy, how he made the money, and the mistake that almost cost him everything.
So John came to me because he was in a sales job and he was a little bit younger, in his early 20s, and was actually able to save up a decent amount of capital. He had about $70,000 to his name that he'd made through hard work. Now, the issue with John is that he wanted to level up his lifestyle. He was moving soon, he wanted to get a new car, and he wanted to make sure that his money was working for him and he wasn't just working for money. But the key thing that was wrong with his portfolio was his scattered approach. He didn't really understand fully what he was doing. He was maybe told what to do and listened to maybe the hype on the internet, but he didn't have an actual strategy in place, and that was the first thing that we needed to dive in on right away. Go to the drawing board, and the first thing that we need to do is trim the fat off of the portfolio. So many things that we're looking at as soon as we see it, and I'm like, you know what? This is why you're not making money. You're invested in things that the hype is already gone. These aren't good plays. There's a bunch of crypto things in here. I've seen this before to where people get overwhelmed with, there's so many different things to invest in, and it's almost like you're over diversifying your portfolio. So we did that. We trimmed off the fat. And then from there, we had a really strong foundation to work with. That $70,000 now was about $40,000 worth of cash. Now we could just basically invest that however we please. But the problem here is now we have $40,000 of cash and we basically just cut half of this portfolio. What are we gonna do next? And what are the next plays that we need to do in order to make sure that even after we win, how do we not mess this up? Because there were some points later down the line to where I thought we might not even be able to get this done. So when I approached John with the solution, hey, there's a lot of fat in the portfolio that needs to be trimmed, and I think it's time to be as aggressive as possible, he had his doubts and his hesitation because he'd been doing it this way for so long. And then really I came to the issue of, hey, if you've been doing it this long, it's gonna take some kind of a drastic change in order to see the results that you wanna see. He trims off the fat and now we have some real capital to work with. There's really no need to be super conservative here because obviously, number one, we're young, we have a lot of leeway, and we want to put some risk on the table. We need capital exposure that's going to give us that opportunity to where we can have money making money. So all in all, when everything is done, we have about $40,000 in the portfolio that we can now work with. So John was investing young, and that means it's time to invest smart. And that doesn't mean diversifying your portfolio across 100 different things. That means picking one or two really strong plays that we can essentially rinse and repeat over the next couple of months, if not years. After cleaning up, now the challenge was waiting. John had all of this free capital in his portfolio and was thinking to himself and telling me, hey, when are we gonna get a trade? When's it gonna happen? When are we gonna get it? Patience. Breathe. As soon as you rush for an opportunity, that's where you take losses. So some time goes on, a couple of weeks, and it finally occurs to me, this is the play. The thing that I saw was a huge opportunity in gold. So after looking and researching on my end, what would be the best exposure to take in order to have enough exposure in gold and silver, but enough mitigation to the downside. And it came up with these two ETFs that we could do to where we would have equal amount of exposure. However, if silver went up, that's where we would make the most amount of money. And since silver is so coveted in demand from AI and data centers, and I saw the run coming, that was the approach that we were going to take. So John goes in, he places the trade, and immediately the first thing he asks is, how much we need to do? Should I do more? Let me put in more. No, once again, relax, breathe. Let's start in with just enough to where we can get our feet wet, make some significant gains, but not overexpose ourselves, because I don't want John to feel too emotional when in this trade. I don't want him to feel too attached, but I want him to appreciate the outcome. So after we hit this trade together, 1 week goes by and John texts me and says, dude, we are up so much on this play. And I checked it and we're up around 15%. Not too bad, but that's just the beginning. So a couple of weeks go by and we're up 40% on the positions. John's made his first $20,000 in a singular month. He's texting me, he's excited. I'm excited for him, but now like all the good things, it needs to come to an end. We need to take the gains. John's like, no, let's not take the gains. Let's keep it going. It's going to keep making money. It's going to keep going up. Now's the time. I tell him, lock in that exit position. We'll get in on the next trade. He locks it in. We're happy, celebrate. And not even a week later, the price of metals absolutely tanks. And we lock in a 40% gain, $20,000, and take it at the very top. Now, after that huge win, he was so hungry for more. Where's the next play coming? When is it coming? Always texting me, letting me know, hey, I want to get in on the next thing. Relax. We need to wait. We can't force the opportunity again. Now, that's where most traders mess up, is they hit a big win like that and they look for something immediately. They're on a high. And the thing that I coached them on is you need to sit on your hands and not chase the dopamine. Now, after a couple of weeks, we had another trade present itself. Now, this one was very unorthodox, and this one, we needed to change our approach by a lot. Now, the last trade we held for a couple of weeks. This trade, I let John know, listen, this is going to be a quicker trade. We're going to be in and we're going to be out. This could be a couple of minutes. This could be even a couple of hours. But you need to be ready to lock in this trade whenever it happens. I let him know he's ready, he's dialed in. We hit this trade and it's on a gold stock because I see another gold stock looking for a rebound. Now this small cap gold stock, not even in a couple of hours, makes a 25% gain. John locks in another $5,000 to $10,000 right there in a matter of hours. However, we get into another problem, and this is the biggest problem of them all. John is now on an unbelievable dopamine high. There was a time to where he was just about to turn 21 for his 21st birthday. We're at the club together and he spends $3,500 on a table. Amazing night. However, he was on a crazy high and I had to let him know, listen, we need to take it down a little bit. I know we're making a lot of money doing this. However, we need to be cautious because he's always looking for that next thing. Yo, when's the next trade? When is it happening? When is it happening? He wants to get paid, and he wants to get paid now. And I'm seeing that he has this huge, insatiable appetite for this next trade. How do we fix that? Now, while I was helping John, I had just finished my latest creation, which was my AI trading system. And I thought that John would be perfect for it because it's essentially a trading system that will trade for you every single day almost, without having to lift a finger. So I figured to myself, you know what, if I can give John this to where he can watch something while he waits for the next opportunity, this could satisfy his craving for that next trade. So we set it up, we get him on the AI, and instead of having to look for that next trade over and over again, now he's able to watch the AI and essentially follow that because it's day trading for him almost every single day. So I noticed that he's no longer now asking me for the next trade, what's gonna happen next, and he's looking at the AI. I've essentially fixed his compulsive need to find a trade by giving him a system and also making sure that we manage his emotions and expectations. So fast forward to right now, we've seen some crazy results. We hit the goal of making over 100,000, and now he's actually closer to 110,000. Absolute W. But the cherry on top that really did it for me was this penthouse that I'm sitting in right now. John told me, as you know, I'm looking for a move. He wanted to take over this penthouse with the amount of profit that he was making and called this place his own, to where I could just basically hand over the keys to this penthouse and have it be his, to where he could now live here. That is the biggest win for me because I know personally how much I enjoyed this place. I know how much he's going to enjoy it as well. Obviously, I'm going to enjoy the mansion, but that's the topic for another story. Now, John has since been able to transform and radically increase the amount of performance from his portfolio. And the best part is be able to really see an ROI and have someone to essentially guide him through his investing journey through the rest of his life.